Hello, everybody, and welcome to a video where I will be covering the worst parts of Crimson Vow Limited. If you're more of an upbeat person, you can check out my video on the best parts of Crimson Vow Limited, which I posted yesterday, but this one is a little bit of constructive criticism and some of the things that I wish they had done a bit better. If you do enjoy this video, remember to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more draft content, and comment below with your questions, thoughts, and feedback. And keep in mind that the people who are making this game are doing their very best, and I'm not trying to be overly critical, just these are some of the things that I wish they had done a little bit better. So, moving on to start with an honorable mention, Bramble Armor. I mean, what's the dealio, folks? I'm not sure why this card got reprinted 2 sets in a row. It wasn't very good in Midnight Hunt. I don't know why it was like extra special enough to come back in Crimson Vow. Just kind of a head scratcher here, and just kind of deserves to be on the list, I think, in some capacity. I kind of wish they just put like literally any other card in this spot. It's not particularly thematic, and overall just kind of leaves me confused. So, honorable mention for worst parts of Crimson Vow goes to Bramble Armor, because this may be the most last picked card in history, because it was last picked in Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. So it's got to be up there. So yeah, just kind of a little bit of a question mark there. Moving on to number 5 is the no theme for red white. When I draft sets, I like to kind of have something to build towards when I'm building a deck, like maybe something cool that you can try and do, some sort of synergy you can assemble. And red white was just like the most basic aggressive deck ever. Like there wasn't like any cool theme. There wasn't anything that you could combine cards together to make them greater than the sum of their parts. It was just like play red and white creatures and beat your opponent down, I guess. And it's okay to have basic decks in sets. I just wish that this one had slightly more nuance to it, or something interesting it was doing, or like even like it doesn't even look like they attempted to put something interesting in for red white to do. And so whenever I was playing red white, I just kind of like felt kind of bad because it didn't really do anything cool. And if you only draft the set a few times, it feels good to draft stuff that's cool. And if you're going to draft the set a lot of times, it feels cool to do draft stuff that's cool. So it's kind of like always a win-win to put something at least neat that you can attempt to do in a color combination. And red white was just like basic aggro, which it does aggro stuff a lot, but sometimes it's got like token themes or equipment themes or things like that, and it didn't really have anything going on. So I wish it had something. So that was going to come in at number 5. Moving on to number 4, the weak self-mill theme really kind of was a little bit sad. Self-mill is a pretty fun archetype to play when it comes together. It just was really weak in this set. There are a lot of factors into that. One of them is that the payoffs for it weren't particularly good. Another is that it didn't really have the support it needed at common. Mulch is a really sweet card, and it can do really cool things if there is support for it, but there wasn't really a lot of support for self-mill, and so one of the cooler potential archetypes kind of fell to the sidelines and wasn't that strong, and I think that is a little bit of a weakness of the set, because I think that would have been really fun to have in the set. I mean, the fact that Crawling Infestation is one of the self-mill payoffs in that card is just like, I think it's a reprint as well from a previous Innistrad set where it was also not good. So again, a little bit of a dud there, and it feels bad when there's like a functional reprint, or I think it might literally be a reprint of a previous card, and it's like the card wasn't good before, and then just putting it into the new environment seems a little bit lackluster, kind of like Bramble Armor stuff. So yeah, just a little bit disappointing there. At number 3 is the flavor of the set, and I know the flavor doesn't have that much to do with gameplay, but it's supposed to be this big wedding, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with that kind of theme, and it felt like they really missed the ball on that. So there are cards like Bride's Gown, which I wanted to highlight. They do have some wedding themed cards, but then there's also like, I was looking through the like cards to see if I could find like good flavor cards that maybe I missed that just like weren't played very much. But going through all of the blue cards and all of the green cards, there wasn't a single card that had to do with the wedding, which kind of bugged me a little bit. I guess there maybe was a theme of like, oh, the humans are getting ready to attack the wedding and they're getting all this stuff ready. But it felt kind of like all over the place. It didn't really feel like special. It kind of felt generic. And as a set, as Innistrad is one of those sets that goes back, they go back to again and again. It feels like it's nice to have a unique spin on their Innistrad flavor set. So like when they did Eldritch Moon, there were all of these things where it's like there's all these like mutation things because Emrakul was there. And when in Shadows over Innistrad, it was like there was this mystery element where there was a bunch of like clues and people were looking for stuff, and there was like a tracker and the inspector and things like that. Tireless Tracker, Thraben Inspector, things of that nature. So it kind of felt like more unique. There was more flavor there, even though it was the same Innistrad plane. And it just felt like this set was just very generic Innistrad. It had this like wedding idea, but there wasn't really a lot of like flavor built around that in all of the colors. And I just felt like that was a little bit lackluster, and I wish it had like been a little bit more like, I don't really like some of the flavor text. I just like, it just feels more generic than stuff that you would see in a more themed set. And I think the themes make the sets more fun and more entertaining, and makes like assembling combos more thrilling and things like that. So I think the flavor was a little bit of a miss in this set. Moving on to number 2, training. I just really don't like this mechanic. I think it was poorly made in just the way that it plays out isn't very satisfying, because, for example, with Perish Blade training, you play it on turn 2, and then you don't get to trigger training until turn 4 if everything goes according to plan. And by turn 4, having a 2/3 attacking isn't particularly good. And if you have like your plan disrupted even a little, like they kill your 3-drop, you don't get to do it until turn 5. And it's really just a tough mechanic. I made a video about the weaknesses of training and how I think it could have been made better, which you can find on my channel. But overall, I just think the mechanic is just lackluster. It makes the creatures feel like they should be better than vanilla creatures, but then they play out like vanilla creatures, which is just not a fun gameplay experience. And the mechanic itself is like, you jump through a lot of hoops to get a +1/+1 counter. And there are just a lot of other like mechanics that in the past have been in similar space that have just performed a lot better, because you just get to cash in more immediately. Things like Mentor or things of that nature. So I think training was a big miss, and it was one of the reasons why the white-green decks were kind of lackluster, or even some of the other like color combinations that involved white or green just didn't really do as well, because they didn't really get to use one of the headline mechanics, because it's just really hard to trigger training. So yeah, I think that was a bit of a miss. And then coming in at number 1, probably surprise of no one, I think the rares were a big miss. You may be wondering where all of the rares are. There's so many problematic rares. How come I couldn't pick any to put onto the slide? And you'd be right. There are a lot of problematic rares in the set, and putting them all onto the slide is a little bit of a challenge, but I'll do my best. I mean, this is only some of them. There are quite a few that I had to leave off because I thought the screen might get too crowded and too overwhelming to fit all of the rares on. But yeah, just a shocking number of rares that just felt like they ended the game. They just took over. A lot of them don't even see constructed play. So it's just like they just crammed all of these rares into one environment and just made it like super brutal to play, where it just feels like they play a certain card and you just have like no chance of winning. And that's just not a super fun gameplay experience. Like, sure, it gives, like, one of the things with rares is it gives like a new player a chance to beat a better player because they just play a really good rare. But it just happens so often. They just play Helana and Elena and you would just lose because you didn't immediately have a removal spell. Or you would tap out on your turn and then they'd tap out on their turn for like Toxrill and you were just dead. Or just any number of these rares. Like, these are some of the more brutal ones to play against, but there was just a bajillion rares in this set. I mean, this is a bajillion on the screen, and there were still a few that I couldn't even fit on, as I said. I mean, just so many rares that just have like nothing to do with constructed. Like Dreadfeast Demon is not going to be a constructed playable card because it's a 7-drop, but it just like ends every limited game it gets played in. It's just a lot of brutal rares in this set, and it really made it less fun over time because you would just be playing a normal game and then you just get obliterated by a rare. And it wasn't particularly fun to win with these rares a lot of the time too, because you'd just be playing a game and then you would just obliterate your opponent with a rare and kind of invalidate the entire game. It's like showing up, it's like the classic saying of never bring a knife to a gunfight. It's like you're playing a game of Limited, which is like inherently powered down Magic in a lot of ways, where you're just battling it out with your knives, and then all of a sudden one person pulls out a bazooka and it's just like, well, see you later. And that's how a lot of these rares felt. So it was kind of a brutal environment at times because of the rares. And I wish that there had been like maybe one good rare per color instead of like 4, if they really did want to push that a little bit. But it just felt like a lot of the rares were a little too much. And I wish that they had toned those down a little bit and just printed less of them, because there's just a lot of like game ending rares that you couldn't really do much about. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know what you thought of Crimson Vow in the comment section down below. As I said, if you want to see what my thoughts on the best parts of Crimson Vow were, you can find that video on my channel, or my more in-depth thoughts on the training mechanic. I have those videos already posted. You can also find more of my videos, draft content, draft strategy, draft gameplay on my channel as well. If you're new here, remember to hit that subscribe button to get more draft content. Comment below with your questions, thoughts, and feedback, and hit that thumbs up button if you did enjoy the video. If you would like to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave hashtag #VowOuch, like vouch, because these are some ouch moments from the format. Also, if you would like to support my content, you can do so via Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. You gain access to some cool rewards and help me continue to make these videos, so it's a win-win. If you would like to find other cool stuff, you can find the NicolaiBolas Discord server, links to my articles, links to my Twitch stream in the description down below. You can also find NicolaiBolas merchandise linked below, and things of that nature. So check out the description for a bunch of fun stuff like that. That is going to do it, though. I really do hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you next time.